It is here, based on their actions, we're going to establish a comprehensive yet painfully incomplete list of 9/11 perpetrators. Let's start with the air defense failures.
But there was nobody in our government, at least, and I don't think the prior government, that could envision flying airplanes into buildings on such a massive scale.
But that turns out not to be true. U.S. military planners did envision and practice those very scenarios.
In fact, they were practicing for it that very morning. And we're supposed to assume and believe that that was just a coincidence. North American Aerospace Defense Command is responsible for defending North American skies. NORAD's capabilities are legendary. NORAD literally tracks thousands of objects on a perpetual basis. Some of them are as small as a softball. Any debris from previous space launches, satellites with decaying orbits, the bag of tools that the shuttle crew lost a few missions back. This is vital to security so that these objects are not mistaken for a re-entry warhead causing panic or possibly even a nuclear war. It is also standard operating procedure for the Air Force to intercept a civilian airliner. It is not uncommon for an airliner to lose its transponder or stray off course. In the year prior to 9/11, the U.S. Air Force intercepted 67 flights with a 100% success rate. The multi-billion-dollar high-tech defenses were designed to defend the skies against the might of the Soviet Union, including ballistic missiles and supersonic aircraft during the height of the Cold War. One of its radar systems is much more sophisticated than the FAA systems. PAVPAWS can detect and defend against a submarine-launched ballistic missile attack originating just off the coast of the U.S. Yet here's an interesting quote from the 9/11 report. If our highly skilled and proficient Air Force had not been hampered, there was also much less chance of a success in the attacks. This was accomplished several ways. First, in June of 2001, Cheney ordered Rumsfeld to change the intercept and shoot-down protocols. The ranking military officials no longer had the authority, and the authority now rides with the president or the vice president. Second, drills were conducted that had the majority of our fighter jets deployed elsewhere. One of these drills even envisioned hijacked airliners attacking the World Trade Center and Pentagon. Next, FAA controllers were recruited to assist by simply and quite literally walking out of the room and abandoning their sworn duties.
The fact is that on the morning of 9/11, there's a good chance that you leaped into action. Millions of ordinary people did. They call family and friends to turn on the TV. Many, I was one, try to get through to loved ones in New York. We find the phone system down. We call others to see if they've gotten through. And they call us. But at FAA headquarters?
Everybody just left the room.
A supervisor also seized, mangled, and destroyed the controller's audio tapes. And finally, Cheney himself took command of the air defense from the Presidential Operation Emergency Center. This was to ensure that any aircraft might have gotten word about the attacks could be kept away and stood down on his orders. And we'll show evidence of this. Let's first consider Norman Minetta's testimony before the 9/11 Commission and the alleged shoot-down order.
I wanted to focus just a moment on the Presidential Emergency Operating Center. You were there for a good part of the day. I think you were there with the Vice President. And we had that order given, I think it was by the President, that authorized the shooting down of commercial aircraft that were suspected to be controlled by terrorists. Were you there when that order was given?
No, I was not. I was made aware of it during the time that the airplane coming in to the Pentagon. There was a young man who would come in and say to the Vice President, the plane is 50 miles out. The plane is 30 miles out. And when it got down to the plane is 10 miles out, the young man also said to the vice president, "Do the orders still stand?" And the vice president turned and whipped his neck around and said, "Of course the orders still stand. Have you heard anything to the contrary?"
So why didn't he ask him why he wasn't shooting the plane down? If this were an action order, such as shoot down this target, the aide wouldn't need to keep coming back to inform Cheney of the target's location. He would be carrying out the order to shoot down the target. However, a non-action order, or a stand-down order, would require the aide to return and inform Cheney of the target location, and even ask if the order still stands. Another obvious flaw in this pathetic explanation is this. If this were a shoot-down order, and they were tracking the target 50 miles out, the air defense assets surrounding the Pentagon would have easily succeeded in shooting down this alleged airliner. Also, remember that Flights 11 and 77 never existed in the first place. I researched the Bureau of Transportation Statistics to verify what John Lear reported earlier in this video. Furthermore, if this was a shoot-down order, why weren't they shooting at it? They never fired a shot. If it was a shoot-down order, they would have been shooting. So there is clear evidence of Cheney's involvement in the implementation of the attacks. His membership in the Project for a New American Century, where they call for a new Pearl Harbor, is direct evidence in his involvement in the planning. This is an open challenge to Dick Cheney to come forward and explain his actions or lack thereof on the morning of 9/11. He won't, because he has no logical or mitigating explanation. That's why he and W refused to testify under oath to the 9/11 Commission, refused to testify separately, refused to have any record of their testimony, and they refused to allow any press or family members be present when they spoke to the 9/11 Commission. And it's just a coincidence that, in fact, on 7/7,
there was also an anti-terrorist drill going on 7/7. And again, just like 9/11, they were talking about attacks on the same targets, the same kind of tube stations, and exactly the same time as the actual attack happened.